So let's do a little refresher. We've talked about a couple of ways that you can empathize with the user, and understanding that empathy is the most important part of designing anything for a user. So we've talked about how to use the empathy maps, we've talked about the user personas, we've talked about user stories. And then we've talked about the user journey. And then in all of this, we are focused on the problem that the user had, and then we've developed a good problem statement for the user. So now it's time for us to transition from talking about problems, and talking about ideas to setting goals, to what we actually want to design for the user. So a goal statement is one or two sentences that would describe a product and its benefits for the user. So in other words, is basically providing the ideal solution for your design. So the goal statement is going to cover things like who the product is going to serve, what the product will do for them, and why the product will solve their problems. So before you can write a goal statement, you have to first, start by revisiting the problem statement. Remember what the problem statement looks like. So it's a user that has certain characteristics who needs X because they need to achieve Y. Now, so in goal statement, you need to transition from identifying the problem to transitioning to identifying the goal. And when we did the brainstorming session, we talked about, we tried to basically generate a whole lot of ideas. Now it's time to kind of narrow it down to a particular, solution that we are going to do for the user. So in the goal statements, okay, this is easy. In the goal statements, it describes a particular action that the user can take and what the product is going to do. Then it's also talked about who the action is going to affect, and then states a positive impact of the action and why the product is going to solve that user's need. It also, talks about success in measurable terms. So this is the template of what the goal statement is supposed to look like. So our product lets users perform specific action, which will affect, you talk about the desirable, you describe who the action is going to affect by, you talk about how the action is going to positively affect them. And then we will measure effectiveness by, you describe how you're going to measure the impact of the solution. Now, after you do that, okay, when that is done, so that means you now have a particular product, right? After doing that lots of brainstorming, you broke that brainstorming down into a value proposition. We talked about value proposition the last time, or you talked about it with Victor, can't remember. But the idea of value proposition is basically talking about the particular thing that you want to solve for the user, right? So the brainstorming generated a lot of ideas, right? And then these goal statements and value proposition essentially narrows those ideas down into particular things that they're going to do for the user. So you cannot work on many ideas. You have to now break it down because those ideas were very raw. So now it's time to break it down into choosing a particular thing or in a particular way that the user is going to be benefited by the solutions you have. So one of the most important skills that a designer has is the ability to design a user flow, right? A user flow is essentially how the user goes through their life, through your product, and through solving the problem that that they want to solve, that you want to solve for them. In designing, when you design the user flow, you are able to better anticipate the needs of the user at every particular time. And if you're able to do that, you can see certain places where you have never thought of before that we believe that the user is going to have, benefit. And in fact, it's even going to show you a couple of ways that you can actually solve a user's problem for them. Later this week, did I promise this last week? I promised it last week, but it's later this week because it has not been approved. So later this week, hopefully, if it's approved and I can share it with you, I'm going to share something that we're working on, and you see how we worked on the flow, so that the user can actually, so that you can actually see the points where you can benefit a user. And in fact, in understanding the user flow, we're able to point out a particular place where we were able to now affect the outcome for everybody that is involved. So the user flow, apart from talking about how the user flows through life, you also have to talk about how the user flows through the particular application that you're designing. It could be a website, right? You have to think about how the user is going to flow through your website in order to achieve the goal you want them to achieve within that website, or flow through the app in order for them to achieve the goal you want them to achieve through the app. Now, in the last assignments, actually not the last one, but the one before that, we talked about you did like you told a story on a page, right? And whenever you're telling a story, whether you're telling it, with a website or with a book, you have to allow the user to flow. Things have to make sense from them from the beginning, and then they flow through the experience and out of it and get the information that you want them to get. So you have to make the things connect. You cannot, for instance, start talking about a user who is in Lagos and all of a sudden the user appears in Borno without explaining how the user went through Lagos, to all the states that connects from Lagos to Borno. So that flow has to make sense. And if that flow makes sense, you may now be able to find, the difficulties that the user will have navigating their way from Lagos to Borno. So typically, when you are outlining a user flow, before you start even designing the screens on the app, you need to understand how the user can effectively move through that app. Let's say you want to sell, because at the end of the day, the idea for websites, the idea for apps, they don't exist on their own. Mostly don't exist on their own. They mostly exist to solve problems. Uber, for instance, the app that everybody knows Uber, right? So Uber does not exist just to be an app, right? It exists to solve a problem of moving people from point A to point B, right? Now, if that idea of moving people from point A to point B didn't exist, the idea for the Uber app will not exist. So the Uber app is on the phone, but the actual service is people getting into the car and moving from point A to point B. So in order for you to design an app that was going to help people move from point A to point B, you need to understand the logistics, of them doing that movement. And the logistics will now include, for instance, them knowing where the driver is at the moment, when the driver is going to arrive, and you understanding everything about that service in particular. So if you understand that, then you can understand how you can translate it into a phone that is going to make the real life easy. So you need to understand the flow in real life. Then you need to understand how you're going to translate that flow into the phone and, make that journey easy for people to use on the phone. So you need to understand what actions people are going to take on the app. Let's say you have an Uber now. If you open your Uber app, the first thing you do is to let the app know where you are. Of course, we don't always do that because the app will automatically have like a system that would use your phone's technology to pinpoint your location. But if that technology didn't exist, the app somehow has to know where you are. So maybe the first thing you need to do is to have a place where people can input their location. Now, thinking about it, a lot of times when we use Uber, we don't use it for ourselves, right? For instance, a lot of times when my mom comes to Lagos, right, I have to be the one to book her Uber to wherever she's going. And if the Uber app insists that it's going to work on my location every time, then I won't be able to use the Uber app to book, to book ride for my mom or for anybody else that needs the ride. So therefore, it makes sense for you to have a point where you can say, okay, let me point the location where I want the person to pick me up, even if it's not me they're picking up. Yeah. So you need to think about that. And then after that, you think about, okay, where are we going? Right? You now the app, you now have a space in the app where you now input where you are going. Okay. Now, after that, the app is going to use the knowledge of knowing where of the location to calculate with whatever algorithm they are using the price, for that trip. Of course, that price will have to make sense because on the other side of the service is the guy who is the driver, and if the price doesn't make sense for the driver is not going to make the service happen. Mind you, the Uber exists for the service to happen. So when they now calculate the price, the next thing is now you're now going to have to accept if the price is good for you. And it's also going to now tell you how long, apart from telling you how long that journey is going to take, it's going to tell you how long it take for the driver to come to you, because that driver is not just going to poof, disappear and appear because you press the button on your app. So there has to also be a way for it to tell you when the driver is going to come for you. All of that step by step, you can only understand it if you've done a good work in understanding the user flow, how the user is going to flow through in real life and flow through inside the app, So you think about that before you even open your computer to go to Figma to start designing. You have to figure it out on paper, that this is what is going to happen. Draw that journey of how the app is going to move from point A to point B to point C to point D until the user gets what they want before you now go to your computer and start designing anything. So that is the user flow. Of course, talking of the actions the user is going to take, the decisions they are going to, the decisions the users will need to make, and what screens will the users experience after taking an action or making a decision. So they are industry standard, because a lot of times when you are designing or documenting anything, you're not doing it for just yourself. You're doing it for other people in the industry. Like you have your colleagues at work that will need to look at your documentation and understand what you are doing, right? So because of that, there is a common language, that is used within the industry. And in that language, the circle, signifies an action that the user is supposed to take. A square or rectangle signifies a screen that the user is supposed to see. A rhombus, this shape here, this signifies a decision that the user will need to make, whether yes or no, true or false, agree or disagree, decision. And then these arrows signify movements, right? Where the red arrow signifies the forward movement and the dotted arrow or the dotted line arrow signifies the backward movement. So, okay, I think this is just what we've talked about. Let me see. Okay, so actions are show steps that must be taken to complete. I think we talked about it. Right. So this is what like a typical, this one is a very short, user flow, very uncomplicated, straight to the point. Of course, if you're designing an app, it's going to be a lot more complex than this. But I mean, it's very good to keep it simple, right? Because the real activity that you are doing in that app they are not a lot. There is one thing that the user came to that app to do. So an Uber app may have many user flows, but there is one thing a user came to Uber to do. The user did not come to Uber app to chat with the driver. They didn't come to Uber app to look at their receipt. They didn't come to Uber app to look at your advertisements or any other thing that is inside the Uber app, right? They came to the Uber app to book a ride. So that is the main user flow. All these other things I mentioned have their own flows. And if your task is to, for instance, design how a user is going to see their receipts, that becomes your primary user flow. Because if, for instance, you are employed in Uber, you are not going to, design the whole Uber from the beginning, right? You're going to maybe a task maybe for you to make it easier for users to see their receipts or make that user experience of viewing receipts to be easier for the user, right? So that becomes your primary flow, and they're going to focus on just that flow, right? But for the apps you're designing now, you guys are, or application solutions, whatever you're designing from the scratch, right? So for the person who is designing an app that is going to make it easier for people to get physiotherapy, right? The main flow that you are going to focus on is the flow that gets users to their physiotherapists and, gets users to book their physiotherapists, right? That's the main flow. Of course, there will be other flows like how the user is going to make payments. Okay, I think it's actually part of that main flow. Okay, there are parts of flow, for instance, how do you say, maybe if there is an advert for them to view, if there is a blog for them to read, if there is a, let's say, receipts, how they see their receipts, how they chat with their physiotherapists or whatnot, right? Those things will have their own flows, but the main flow you're going to be focused on, the big picture, is being able to book a physiotherapist, right? So as you can see, this one now is about booking a dog walker, right? So you open the app, that is the action that the user takes, opening the app. And when they open the app, they see a screen. And the screen that they see is a home page, right? Then after they see that screen, they make they take another action of browsing the dog walkers on that screen, right? And then another action that they can take is reading tips on that screen, right? And these pages seem to be linked because no decision, has been taken here. So these screens are kind of linked. So when they are browsing the dog walkers, they will see another screen that is going to show them all the dog walkers, that are existing in that area. And then they are going to select a dog walker, and then it's going to show them another screen of a dog walker's profile. And then they're now going to make a decision whether they want to book a dog walker or not to book a dog walker. So when they book a dog walker, they are now going to see a screen that confirms their appointment. If they don't book a dog walker, it takes them back to the screen of okay, I mean, nothing. It just takes them back to the screen where they see the profile of the dog walker. And then, of course, there will be back buttons that will not take them back, back to where they're coming from. So this is what a typical user flow is going to look like. And it's when you see this flow, you will now know, okay, so this is how it's supposed to happen. And then you start designing for that to happen. You would think that this is not necessary, right? I mean, the general should I say, common idea is that when people are given assignments to do or to design a user flow from booking a dog walker, for instance, they immediately go to their Figma and start drawing screens. It's only when you now finish drawing your screen, you now see that the flow of your app doesn't make sense. Everything is beautiful, but it's not usable, because the flow just doesn't make sense. But this step of actually writing it down on pen and paper is going to kind of give you an idea. You will see the pitfalls of the design. You see where it's not going to work, or try to think about how you're going to make it work. but that can only happen when you can see it like this. Oh, okay. Okay, so for this, you're designing from the scratch, so you're creating a completely new user flow. In the real world, you just be working on one small site. In fact, if you're working on if you're working on a company like Facebook, your whole task may be just to design how to like a picture, you know, some very small niche, design like that. Right. So creating storyboards. Storyboards is like a graphical representation of what a user is going to experience with a product. So storyboards is basically, that's more like when you did that user journey or user journey mapping, now drawing it in pen and paper, recently you might like drawing the actual story as if you're drawing a cartoon, of how the user is going to go from point A to point of achieving their goals. Now, there are two kinds of storyboards. There is a big picture storyboard where, you are drawing more like how what the user does before getting on the phone or getting on the app, then when they get on the app, and then how the user does after they finish whatever they're doing on the app. That's the big picture storyboard. That's like seeing the environment of the user. It's important in showing you the context in which a user is going to use your product, right? So in designing for Uber now, Uber may think of the storyboard of maybe somebody being stranded, their car has spoiled or something, and they're stranded on the highway, how they are going to. So they start from somebody getting stranded on the highway, and then, going for their phone, and then pressing their phone, and then after like pressing their phone, basically using the Uber app, and then when they book the Uber app and then the car now comes, you can see that part of the car coming and picking them up is not part of the user journey. So it's not part of the user Uber app, but that context of the car coming and then the car taking them gives a designer an idea. So what if now this car comes and this car is another car that is not what how does the user know that this car is actually the car they booked? Because any car can come, like you can book a car and then some other car comes and then kidnaps the user. So what will you do then? Okay, so what we're going to do now is now in the app, we're going to put a plate number so that the user can identify the car, know that it's a red car and is a plate number of so. Without understanding that big picture story or in the context the user is using that product, you will not see the fact that a different car may come, because cars don't come on the app, right? It's in the big picture storyboard that you see the context in which the user is using the product. In fact, it's in the big picture storyboard that you can see that the user, this product should be a phone app and not a mobile phone app and not a laptop app, right? Because if Uber was an app that people use in their bedrooms or in their working in their house, or can only use in their house, it will be a different product, right? What instance do I give now? So if you use if you take an app like Google Maps, yeah, Google Maps has a desktop app and it has a mobile app. If you use the Google Map desktop app, it is completely different. The things that you use inside that app, completely different. Things that you can do in that app, completely different from what it is on the mobile app, because the big picture storyboard is understood. If you go to Google, if you use the Google on the desktop, it doesn't have, for instance, the street view that you can now use AI to be, augmented reality, AR, to be viewing houses and tagging houses and knowing where what is where, because desktops don't have a back camera. So the big picture storyboard is going to give you an idea of the context that the app is being used in, the context that the user is existing in, to know how to even design the app in the first place. Now, in creating a storyboard, you have a scene, which is understanding the user's environment. You have a plot, which is describing the solution that you want the design to achieve. And then you have a narrative that describes the problem that the user is facing and how the design is going to help them to solve the problem. Okay, we've talked about this. There are two types of storyboards. You have the big picture storyboard, which focuses on the user needs and the context in which they need it. And of course, is normally used in the early stage of the design. And then you have the close-up storyboards that talk about the app now, the product now, and the flow of the user within that product. So whether you're designing a big picture storyboard or a close-up storyboard, the process is the same. You start with the problem statement. You already know the problem statement. And then you create a goal statement. So the goal statement is going to help you determine the plot, of the design. And then you add the storyboard scenario. So at the top of the storyboard, you write basically the scenario and what the user basically achieves. And it's just like you're drawing a cartoon. I don't know if you people drew cartoons when you were younger. So every step or every picture will be described what the user is doing in this picture, what the user is doing in that picture, until you get to the final end of what you want to design. Right. So the big picture storyboard focuses on the user's experience, right? The user experience. Yeah. Sorry. Right. So because big pictures are built about users, it's important to include emotions like frustration, happiness, etc., etc. Right. So when you're creating storyboards, whether it's big picture or small picture, you put one idea per panel. So each panel should be used to explain one idea, and then each panel should help you expose the pain points that you have identified the user to have, because it's supposed to. Okay, so the idea of drawing these storyboards is for you to be able to not just convince yourself about the utility of the product you're designing, but to convince others. So you are drawing it, so that the stakeholders, people you're working with, the CEO, the product owner, is going to understand where the problem is, empathize with the user, because you have empathized with the user. So now we also have to empathize with the user, right? So you are drawing it for other people to be able to understand what the user is going through. Like you are now like an advocate for the user, explaining step by step what that user is going through, where their pain points are, so that other people will understand it, right? And the reason you need other people to understand it is because other people have to buy into the idea in order to help you, achieve it. Other people have to also buy into the idea. If, for instance, you have a good idea, your CEO doesn't buy into that idea, the CEO is not going to fund it, yeah? So you need to be able to convince your stakeholders that this particular thing is a pain point, and if we don't solve this particular pain point, the product may not go well, right? So that's the idea. So when you are drawing it, have it in the back of your mind that you are trying to tell other people the story so that you can get a buy-in and you can explain why this solution that you've chosen is a good one. Sorry. Right. So at the final panel is where you now talk about the conclusion. Let's do this. Okay. Talk about the conclusion in the final panel. So the close-up storyboard is pretty much the same thing. It's just that in this case, every picture that you're drawing is what happens inside the app. That they go from this page inside the app to that page inside the app to that page inside the app. Mind you, that the thing remains the same. You are trying to show where the user might have a problem, what the user what you might need to put there so that you can guide the user to go from first point to second point to third point in order for them to be able to achieve what you want them to achieve. So this is an example of a closed up storyboard. I don't know if I can expand it. I cannot. Right. So notice this first page, right? This first page talks about the user finds musician app and taps the icon on the app, right? Anyway, I think this is important for when you're actually now developing the product. But you know, the first time I don't know if we talked about this, I told you that your product does not exist in a vacuum. Your product exists in the context of other products on the user's phone, right? So maybe your product is not an app, a standalone app. Maybe your product is a product that exists inside WhatsApp, or exists inside Facebook, or exists inside Twitter, or exists inside Telegram. It doesn't have to be an app on its own. And I'll explain why your product doesn't have to be an app. My phone now is like 200 and something gigabytes, but it's full. I have a lot of apps on this phone that if somebody wants me, like my memory now is full. If somebody wants me to download an extra app on this phone, that app had better be saving lives. Like that app had better take me to heaven for me to delete another app inside my phone and install their own. So when you're creating a product, think about that. I mean, it's a business side of it, but you need to think about it. Because if your app is not that important for somebody to delete another app on their phone, think of all the important apps on your phone. For you to download another app, maybe, and then it will even give you an idea of the size the app has to be. This app is an app that is 500 megabytes. You know how many apps I had to delete from my phone for me to download an app that is 500 megabytes? These are things you need to think about, because your app is going to exist in a context. It's possible that, you know, some apps, for instance, it's hard for me to use Uber without using Google. So a lot of times, Google Maps. So a lot of times before I even, you know, try to find my way on Uber, I have to go to Google Maps to find the way the address has to look. For some reason, Google Map does that better than Uber. Like you type an address on Uber and then it does not list it. But you have to go to Google to put that address, then go and find the correct way to state that address. For some reason, I don't know. Then I now click it and now go back to Uber. So it's harder for me to use Uber without having a Google Maps on my phone. So this is why it's important to think about the context in which your app even exists on the person's phone. So the person clicks the app and then the first screen they see is a login app. So are they logging in or are they a new user? Do you even need this part? Do you need this part? So there are apps that when you come in, you know, you go directly from login. You don't even see this login part because they don't need you to log in. Let's say if you're playing a game, Candy Crush, right? Do you need a login for that? Versus if it's a bank app, do you need a login for that? Right? So if your app is a bank app, yes, you know, you might need a lot of security. But if your app is like an app that is not that serious, like it's a game or something, of course, some games people actually are jealous about the strides that they've made on the game, that they don't want another person to come and disrupt it. So maybe they will need a login, right? But for a lot of games that are not that serious, logins are not necessary, because mind you that every other screen that you're putting in front of the user before they can achieve what they want to achieve is a hindrance to them achieving it. So you want the user to be able to achieve what they want to achieve in the fewest number of steps possible, right? So you really need to think about, do you need a login page? And that is something that a user storyboard is going to show you, because again, you need to achieve your goal for the user in the fewest amount of steps possible, or else they are going to drop off. Then this next screen says that the user now scrolls through the musician profile, you know, to search for qualified candidates, right? So they scroll through the user profile to search for qualified candidates. Now, another thing to think about there, do they need to scroll, or should we recommend for them based on their location? Or should we put a search bar in case they're looking for a particular musician that they want? Things to think about. Then the user selects the view profile, and then the user sees the musician's profile, and then there is a button there that says what message, and then the user messages the user and the musician, and then message sent. Good. So this is what a close-up storyboard looks like. Sorry, I didn't include a big picture storyboard, but I think you get the idea. Maybe when we get to Figma, I'm going to paste what's the big picture storyboard that we designed, so you get the idea. Now, wireframing. So wireframing is basically you drawing your app step by step on paper, right? Not just on paper actually, because there is paper wireframes and then there is digital wireframes, right? But the idea of wireframe is that you are designing a low fidelity copy of the thing you are going to design. Low fidelity because you don't want to spend a lot of time on the aesthetics. You don't want to spend a lot of time deciding if you want to use blue here or red there. You don't want to spend a lot of time deciding which picture you are going to use. If you want to use a picture of a woman or a man, you don't want to spend a lot of time even thinking about the copy, the text that you're going to put there. You just want to be able to kind of see generally what the app is going to look like, how it's going to be arranged, what is going to be where, what is even necessary. That's where wireframing comes in. It's easier to do that first before you can now start going, high fidelity of, putting everything in place, right? It's easier to draw a sketch, much like a sketch of what you want to do. So what you want to take care of in wireframing is the information architecture. Information architecture is essentially the kind of information you put on what page. So do you want to put things like contact us screen on the homepage? Do you think it's better to put it on the homepage, or do you think it's better it has its own page? Social media, what are social media links? Where do you want to put it? So information architecture, because essentially what the website is, what an app is a collection of information. So it's a collection of information. The Uber app, for instance, is a collection of information of, the cars that are around you, the prices of the car, of the rides, the map, even, locations in Lagos or wherever. All these things are information, right? So what information architecture does is decide which informations belong together in the same page and when to give which particular kind of information. So what it does is helps you organize, your website in a way, because if it's not well organized, the experience is going to be very poor. Imagine if you came to, let's say, Facebook. Imagine you came to Facebook, yes, and instead of seeing, what people are posting, the first page you see on Facebook is your message page, or I don't know, the Facebook Marketplace page or something, right? It's not really a nice experience because you didn't come to Facebook to go to markets. You didn't come to Facebook to start reading messages, right? You came to Facebook to see what other people are saying, right? So the way that information is given to you is important. The way it's organized is important. That's why information architecture is important. And then the hierarchy, which information is more important than the other one, right? Which information do you want to put out to the user first? What do you want them to see first? What do you want them to see second? What do you want them to see last? This is hierarchy. And you also need to decide on the hierarchy of the information that you want to give. And then you want to talk about the sequence in which you give the information. If somebody is coming to your page to buy something, right? So let's give these two scenarios, right? I think it just came to my head, right? So if you're selling something that is cheap versus if you're selling something that is expensive, let's say you're selling something that is worth millions, right? Or hundreds of thousands of naira, and then you're selling something that is worth maybe 50 naira, 500 naira, So it makes sense. Like if I'm just, this is my theory, I don't know. In my theory, maybe you agree with me. But it makes sense that if the thing you're selling is not that expensive, you want to put out the price first, you know. So this granite is like 500 naira, biscuit 500 naira. Like the price is right there beside the picture, right? Whereas if you're selling something that is more expensive, let's say you're selling a house, you want the user to experience the house first. Even when you are talking to people, even when you go to buy a house, nobody says, oh, this is my price for the house, right? They want you to experience it first, experience the car first. After you've experienced it, then they will tell you the price, right? So that sequence is important, you know. If you just see a car, you know, so the 5 people are selling Corolla, you know, one of the Corollas is 500,000, another Corolla is 5 million, right? The person that is selling their Corolla for 5 million, knowing that somebody out there is selling their Corolla for 500,000, will not want to immediately tell you their Corolla is 5 million. They want to explain why this Corolla is worth 5 million first before they now give you the price. So that you now say, oh, okay, you know what? I think this is actually worth it. You know, so that is why sequence can be important. Of course, like what I just said now is like a more complex part of it. I mean, a simple part of it is if you want to buy something, it makes sense for the person to see the picture, the description, and then when they click, then they can now see maybe the picture, the price, and the description. When they click, then they can now maybe get an invoice of, you know, the whole price and the taxes and everything. And then when they now click buy, it now takes them to a page where they can now make payments, right? As opposed to having the payments, maybe asking somebody to put their payment detail before they even see the product that they're going to buy, right? So that this is a more, you know, obscene, you know, way of showing why sequence is important. So 8 important principles of information architecture. Object principle. You should view your content as a living, you know, organism and something that is going to grow over time. Now, imagine that you are designing a shop, right? Or, you know, you are designing a store, an online store. I can imagine that maybe at the first day you're selling 5 products. Over time, you may start selling more products. From your product line can increase from 5 to 20, 50, etc. Right? So when you're designing from the beginning, you anticipate that at some point my product offering is going to increase. So when you are by doing that, you give room for that increment to happen. If it increases, what is this page going to now look like? Yeah?
Sorry, can I just get burned?
Yeah, sure. So if it increases, what is that product now? Like, what is that, Chema, please? It's okay. If your product offering increases, what does that screen now look like, right? So you need to figure all of that out and understand that at some point your product offering is going to go up. And if it goes up, your page shouldn't break, your design shouldn't break. You should give room for increments. That's the object principle. Then the choice principle. Users may have choices, but they actually need fewer choices that are well organized. You know, like you don't want to give users like 100 ways of doing something. You just want to give them maybe a couple of ways, maybe like 2 or 3. So even if there are 100 ways of possible ways of doing it, you want to reduce that choice to a few. You know, some people make fun of Apple users. They say Apple is very simple to use. That's why people. Well, I mean, it's very simple to use. That's why people like it, right? You know, Android phones to have like 500 million ways of doing something. Apple just has 2 ways of doing it. Yeah, people are, you know, fawning over the product because people think they want a lot of choices, but they really need just a few. Because if you have a lot of clothes in your closet, it's more difficult for you to make decisions, right? But if you have just a few products, if you just have two clothes, you know, in your closets, you know, it's very easy, you know, and your life is easier because you just take one or the other, right? Then disclosure principle is the part where information should not be unexpected or unnecessary. So you don't want to, for instance, let's say, when you are selling, I don't know, maybe like giving people information that they don't need to make a decision is, apart from it giving too much information, it makes the experience worse, because it's now too much information. People are not going to read all of that. So of course, like, there is this idea when you're designing things that people don't like reading. So if you're going to put a lot of text or descriptions on something, people are not going to be able to make decisions. However, recently there is this movement for people to for more disclosure. Let's say, for instance, if making legal documents, terms and conditions of using the product very easily digestible for users, so that they know what they are going into, from the beginning. So I think these are ideas you need to balance, right? And then there is the exemplar principle, that people put things into categories and group different concepts together, right? That's the principle on which the information architecture is based on. Say, for instance, now, contact us page. Some contact us pages would have things like sending a message, so they'll have like a message and this bar, and then they'll have that field where you can write the message you're writing and all of that. Yeah. But it also has a lot of times things like Twitter, our Twitter handle, our Instagram handle, and all of that. But really think about it. There is really no logical connection between Twitter handle, Instagram handle, and contacting us, because they are not contacting us by Twitter or Instagram. However, people psychologically group those things together, and that is just it. So there is people psychologically group some things together. So they group things like contact us together with Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, social media handles and all of that. So I don't know like how deeply you guys research, but okay, you are still going to do more research anyway, especially when you're working with real products now. Some of that research will include things like card sorting, where it shows you how users would typically categorize things. So if you have like 100 information you want to stuff in a website, and you need to only break it down into 5 pages, you write those 100 information on cards, ask people to sort those cards into 5 categories, and then see the kind of things people put together, in one category. That means that is how they view those ideas. So that is how they are going to categorize it, and that will help you in how you're going to categorize things in your website as well. Okay, so apart from that, you have front door principles. So people will usually arrive at your homepage from another website. Maybe it's a website where you did your marketing, or it's a website where people refer them to. So when they do, what do you want to be the first thing they see? That's going to be the front door. So you think about that principle as well. What do you want to be the first thing people see when they jump into your website? If they are coming into if they are being referred from another page, what do you want them to see first? Things to consider. Because, for instance, if they are coming from a social media, let's say from a page on Instagram, where you've already explained what that product does, and then you click buy now on Instagram, and then it takes them to your website, do you want them to start from the homepage again? To now go and before they get to buying? Maybe what you want them to do is when they click that buy now, it takes them directly to where they get the invoice and putting their card details and all of that, right? So that's another way to look at the front door principle. Multiple classification principle. People have different ways of searching for information. So sometimes when you're looking for something, you want to go to the search bar and type out what you're looking for. Other people may want to just scroll through. other people may want things to be categorized for them. So these are different ways to look at it. Focused navigation, there must be a strategy and logic behind the way navigation menus are designed. So when you are designing your navigation bar, there has to be a logic, to the navigation bar design. For instance, if you click on the menu, there are things that come on the menu. If you click on the contact us, there are things that come on the contact us. So sometimes you have a lot of information to stuff into the website, and you want your navigation bar to be able to kind of connect to all of those information. Things to think about. The growth principle is the idea that the amount of content in the design is going to grow over time. So you need to also think about it. Site mapping. So it's basically how a website is organized or an app is organized. So of course, it's going to have a home page. If it's an app, it can have a welcome page. And sometimes you have the welcome page being a parent of the homepage, right? So depending on how you want to design it, there could be a couple of steps for them to go from the opening the app to getting into seeing whatever they're looking at. Then there will be other screens. You have your settings, profile, etc., etc. I think you can get more of these when you study other products that are doing what you're doing. That's competitive analysis. You can see how they arrange theirs, think about the logic of that arrangement and then see what you can improve. So in website mapping, you want to focus on essential content and eliminate or move around less important content. Of course, always remember that people don't have a lot of attention span. If it's too much, they'll drop off. Then you have to consider the size and spacing of touchscreen targets, right? So especially when you are designing for mobile apps, you have to consider that, people's finger has a particular size. So you don't want to clump up your information to be so close together that people could not, that people, when they want to press send, they mistakenly press like you want things to not be so close together that people could not easily make decisions on what they want to push or what buttons they want to push. You also want to make sure that the mobile text is large enough for people to read, and consider that different people have different eyesight. So maybe you want to have that put that at the back of your mind. Then this is what the paper wireframe looks like. I told you, before you start putting things on Figma, you need to draw it out on paper first, right? How you want to arrange it, so all of these arrangements could be an app that does the same thing, but just has different arrangements for different reasons, right? So this arrangement is one way of doing it. Maybe this one is like a card that has a picture, and this one is a heading and a text, and maybe this little thing here is a prize. Draw it out first, right? How you want that page to look like. You can want it to look like this. You can want it to look like this. You can want it to look like this. Draw out different options of what you want the arrangement to look like, and then you can combine. You can, of course, even in doing this thing, you can also look at other people, right? It's important to always do competitive analysis to see how other people are doing it, and what has been working for other people, to now have an idea of different ways you can do it. So this is what a paper wireframe looks like. These are the steps to doing paper wireframe. Basically, gather your pen and paper and just start drawing. It's not that deep. So sometimes the advice that you create 5 different versions of how you want to structure the information on that page, and then you pick out, of course, this is like brainstorming, right? The same concept behind brainstorming. Draw out 5 different, concepts of how you want that page to look like, and then you pick one, or you pick a combination of them to move forward. Then you choose which elements to refine, you choose which ones to combine, etc., etc. The fact that I said you should see how it's working for other people does not mean you have to copy. There is this saying that every designer copies, right? But if you copy for one person, that's plagiarism. But if you copy from 100 people, that's innovation, right? So you don't copy from one person. You try to combine, do a combination of different things, but have a logic to why you are picking this feature or that feature or that feature. By combining all of that together, you get the particular one that is going to work for you. So after drawing the paper wireframe, you now go on Figma and draw the digital wireframe. So digital wireframe, you can see here, for instance, we have a search bar, and this search bar has been turned to this search bar. This picture becomes the profile picture. And you can see this thing is still black and white, yeah? So the reason it's black and white is that two things. First of all, it's easier, right? You are not so bogged down on what picture goes where, and the color of the menu button and all of that. Secondly, when you design things in black and white, you automatically kind of are forced to have a hierarchy that is not based on color. So it's important that your hierarchy is first based on text size, font, positioning, things like that, right? We use like things like text size, text color, not color now, but what do you call it? Transparency, right? Shade and light. Use that because if your product looks good in black and white, then by the time you bring in color, it looks even better. And apart from looking better, it's a better experience. So the paper wireframe, the digital wireframe helps you to design a good experience before you now start bringing in the color. Because sometimes the color can make you look like you have a good experience, but in real life, it's not really that good. So that's it for the first part of the class. Does anyone have questions? Now would be the time to ask before we jump into the next one. So do you have any questions?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. My question is on the plagiarism thing. Is there any law against whoever maybe do a direct copy or something governing that, a penalty or something?
Of course there is. Okay, so it depends, right? So if, for instance, you are going to clone an app that is branded, let's say you're going to clone Twitter. Is one thing to clone Twitter, is another thing to use their colors, their logos. Let's say, for instance, okay, let me put it to you like this. Is there any law, do you think there is any law that is that makes it impossible for you to clone a Stanbic IBTC's webpage? Like clone it word for word, logo for logo, color for color. Of course there is a law because it becomes fraud. Because imagine what people could do with it. Imagine Yahoo boys, cloning a page, a landing page for a particular website and making it look like the same way, so that people couldn't differentiate whether they are buying something from you or buying from someone else. Of course, there is a law against that. But except when you say cloning now, you mean maybe using the same layout that they're using, but using your own logos, your own colors, your own pictures and all of that, then there is no law against that. I mean, I could design an app that looks exactly like Twitter, as long as I don't use Twitter logo, as long as I don't use Twitter colors, things that would make people say this is definitely Twitter. Most social media apps look alike. Even when Instagram is it Instagram now? Meta came up with their app. What did they call it again? Thread. It looks like a copy of Twitter, but there is nothing illegal about it because they use their own logos, they use their own colors, but the experience was exactly the same, So in that sense, there is no law against it. But in the sense of like trying to be like trying to actually copy so that people will be deceived into thinking it's the same product, then you can get sued. Do you understand?
All right, thank you. Yeah, because the idea is that this, like a person, like, okay, fine, let's take Amazon, for instance, now.
Yes.
I know Amazon is a very big company in e-commerce and the likes, and I want to do something similar too.
Yeah.
So I kind of want all the features, the kind of what they have.
Yeah.
So my brand identity is different in terms of color, in terms of logo and the likes, but all of their features, all what's they, so how you navigate and the likes, picking from them directly, because I would want the similar kind of customer or user they have.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. Right. You can do that. Of course, doesn't look well. It doesn't look good, but you can do it. Like
I kind of.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I kind of feel somehow, but I have someone that was so intense. But I think because to me it looks like indirectly stealing, kind of. But
no, so there have been this outrage on Twitter when one designer kind of cloned another designer's work and put it out as if it's their own, right? And the worst that will happen is that you lose reputation, but nobody's going to put you in prison for that, because designs are not proprietary. You understand? So yes, you can design an app that does exactly the same thing Amazon does, but I will tell you,
and Amazon will not come after me.
No, they will not. They will not come out. They don't. They won't have to come after you. But what I can tell you is that the fact that you design an app that looks exactly like Amazon doesn't mean that the app is going to do Amazon numbers. So the app is going to even succeed. Yeah. Because your customers are not Amazon's customers, right? Amazon has a customer base and it's not yours. Like, it cannot be yours because Amazon has grown to a point where their customer base kind of is different. And nobody that is going to Amazon to buy something would have come to a nameless company to buy something. However, it's possible for someone to go to a nameless company who they have a personal connection with and they understand what they are doing. Like, I mean, people, there is this lady that sells something on Twitter, she's a nameless person, in the grand scheme of things, but people go to her because they know that she delivers, or her product is fresh and all of that. If the woman decides to start a website tomorrow and tries to make it like Amazon, it's going to fail because it's not the same. They don't have the same users. The users
audience, all right,
are not focused. Yeah, they don't have the same audience. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other question?
Thank you. No.
All right. Okay, so let's go to the second part of the class. In this one, I want us to. This class is basically replicating a website. So in the last one we tried to replicate a card. So now we are going to replicate a full website. Give me a second. Let me put things in place. Of course, not a full website, like a web page. One web page, just to give you an idea of how things are typically arranged and how to design, how to organize your things on web pages. Or I should have just gone there. Or maybe not. Sorry, my network. Hello, can you guys still hear me? I think my network is. Am I still audible?
Yes, sir.
Then it's my computer, not my website. So I need to close down a couple of things. Okay. Okay, I think this will be best, sir. This will be best. Okay. All right, can everyone see my screen now? Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can.
All right. So I want us to replicate this web page, right? So if you're asking if it's a web page, yes, it's a web page. This is Meta's web page, right? Like Meta, the company that owns Facebook. This is their landing page. Now, I want you to kind of note that landing pages are like telling a story. Yeah. So here you have Meta, starting with, of course, their very first thing, telling you basically their logo, right? And then goes to tell you who you are, our technologies, the metaverse, Meta and you, then shop Meta new support. Like this part of the web page is called the navigation bar, or the nav bar for short. This part is called the hero section. Now, hero sections are like, let me show you something. So if you take this is a frame, we make it desktop frame, MacBook Air, let's use desktop, yeah. This is the desktop. The size, the width is 1440. The width of this one is also 1440, yeah. All right. Now, if I put this side by side, now what this frame means is like, this is what the screen of an average desktop, right? That's what it covers. Now, when you land on this Meta website, yeah, this is what you like. This is the first thing you see. So the first thing you see stops here. Okay, the first thing you see stops at this red line, from the top to this red line. So this part is called the hero section. Now, some people will tell you that the hero section, of course, I will also tell you, is the most important part of a website when you're designing it, because it's the first thing your users see. It's like the window is the first thing they see, and it's the first impression you make. It's the first opportunity for you to sell whatever it is you're selling. So you have to be very careful about what you do with that hero section. Okay. Basically, you have to be very strategic on what you do with it, because that's the first thing they see. Is your first opportunity, for you to either drag them into seeing the rest of the thing, or them making a decision that this website is nonsense and you don't have anything going on for you. So very important, hero section. So this section, after the hero section, now they now continue telling the story. So how Meta decided to do this is like telling you a little about them, like views that. What some people are going to do with these VATs. Some people even put it at the hero section. Something called social proof. Social proof is essentially them telling you them telling you who they are in the industry, all the people that they are partners with. We are partners with Google. Google likes us. We've done business with Stanbic Bank. We relate with MTN, because some people will need to know that you have that kind of social proof before they can go ahead and do business with you. But Meta is a big company. Meta doesn't need Meta is its own social proof, right? So Meta doesn't need social proof. Some companies, some products may need to have that thing, that alliance, that we are connected with, or that we've done business with 5,000 people. We have 200 stores across the country. We do business with MTN and Stanbic. They trust us, so you should also trust us. That kind of thing. Some people have it here, right? Now, so Meta goes ahead to talk about their basically who they are, and a little more about. Of course, this website is kind of moves around a bit, so this static image may not tell the whole story, but you get the idea. So now they are talking about $7 billion raised by our community on Facebook and Instagram to support causes they care about. So it's not even the money they raise, it's money people in their community raise, right? Then here is a little video that they put there, and here is what more about the metaverse, blah 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 blah. Well, I'm not really trying to tell you strategy here. What I'm just trying to, we are just trying to, this class is not for strategy. This class is purely a graphic design class, like a UX, like a UI design class. So we're just looking at their UI, and then we're going to try to replicate this UI using everything that we've learned so far. But I was just trying to show you because we had a class today on information architecture. So you can see the things that they put on this page and how they are relating it. And then at the bottom, you have the footer. So this is the footer part of the page. And then they repeat their logo, follow us on social media. And then they have, the different pages, inside this. So this website, you can see that this website is a really gigantic website, because these are all the different pages, that are inside this website. And then they've arranged it in, different categories. This category is virtual reality, smart glasses, support, about us, our community, and the actions that you can, or our actions. So you also will know how to organize your own, your own footer. But the idea of the footer is kind of more like a shortcut to everything else on the page. So let's start. So in our last class, in our first class, we talked about how to do auto layouts, and I've told you, especially the people that worked with me one-on-one on their assignments. That's the people that submitted their assignments. I took them through, again, repeating how to design things from the scratch using auto layout, so that you don't get any problems. Now we're going to reiterate that in this class. So so that's what we're going to do. Okay, so for this section, what I'm going to do is that I'm just going to pretty much let me see if I have some Wella Health brand things I can use, so that instead of using Facebook branding, we use Wella Health branding. That's cool. Oh, sorry, what am I even doing? Okay. Sorry. Sorry, design elements. It's going to open. Sorry, it's going to take a while. Or should I just go here to use logo? Okay, let me. No, this one is going to start from the beginning. I don't know what is wrong. I think my computer is just slow today. Just beating too much. Let me close something. What I'm just looking for is a logo, really. I'm just trying to copy a logo, not that deep. Okay. Okay, so this logo we're going to use. So we don't use Facebook's logo. If you notice something, this thing is purple. Like the frame around it is purple. And I'm going to explain why it's purple. I don't know if this is the right class, maybe not the right class. In subsequent classes, I'm going to explain what this is. This is what we call a component. Components are important for uniformity of your design. So that if, for instance, this logo is going to come out in many places, instead of us, okay, let me just do a little demonstration of why components are important. Yeah. Think. Okay, this is okay. So if I copy this thing and paste it here, my computer is very slow. I can't explain why. So I copy this and paste it here, and imagine I have plenty copies of this. Yeah, I have plenty copies of this at different parts of my website. And maybe sometime in the future, I decide that this thing, I don't want it to be yellow, I want it to be blue, right? Now, imagine me going around and start painting all these things blue again. You know, that's going to be a lot of work. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is come here and paint this one blue. And if I paint this one blue, see what happens. Every other thing is painted blue. So that is a component. Like if we are going to do this with your other design, it's not going to work. So instead of me going around painting everything blue, I just paint one blue and everything changes. So that's why components are important. But that's not for this class. We still have a class where we're going to talk about all of that. So for this one, we're going to, so let's start with the with the navigation bar. So now we have a logo. Next thing we design buttons, right? So these are buttons here. They are buttons. So you may not see that they have borders, but in your mind they have borders because they click, right? So they are buttons. So next we're going to design buttons, and the way I normally design buttons is I start with the text, right? So text I want to put there is buttons. And anyway, I think I might as well just make this a class where we talk about components because we're going to use them a lot. So now we have buttons. I'm going to make it a component. So sorry, I'm going to put it in an auto layout. So how I put it in an auto layout is that I click on it and then I press Shift A and automatically it develops a frame, right? So in order for me to see what I'm doing, I'm just going to put a stroke on that frame and basically leave it like that. And then I'm going to bring in, because I can see that they have a couple of icons here. What other icons am I going to need? So yeah, they have like some arrow icons here and there. So I'm just going to download some icons from my usual place. Can you guys see what I'm doing now?
Yes.
What have I just done right now? What did I do? What are you seeing?
Like your plugin.
All right, so I just
You're inside a plugin here.
All right, okay, that's good because I'm not really sure what it shows and what it doesn't show. So, all right, so I'm going to Content Trail to search for icons because I've not developed an icon library for this. Because we are just trying to clone a website, I'm not really going to go very deep into developing all these things because typically, if you are designing your own thing for your own brand, you need to have an icon library that is consistent. Because what I saw in the last assignment that you guys did is that some people will take one icon from one library, take another icon from another library, and then when they bring them together, they'll just be looking like orphans from different parents, right? Whereas you want to take icons from the same icon library and grow that icon library. See, all these icons now, they're looking like the same. If you look at this one and look at this one, they are different, but they look like they are coming from the same parents, like they're coming from the same icon library. So that's kind of what you need to do. So here, the icon I'm looking for is an icon that looks like an arrow down. So let me just check for, or maybe type arrow and see if they have anything like that. Sorry. Okay, so they have arrow icons, but they doesn't look like, hey, look at what I'm looking for. I'm looking for this, right? So why don't they have up and down now? Okay, they have it. The full thing. So I'm looking for this, I'm looking for that, I'm looking for that, I'm looking for that. Right, so what other icon am I looking for? Okay, let's just take this one for now. Then if we need more, we'll come back, right? So where is my work? My work has lost. Okay, it's up there. Okay, so So yeah, but so what I'm doing now is basically preparation. I'm just preparing things so that eventually it becomes easier for me to, do every other thing. This is 15. Maybe I should make it 16 because I kind of like my text to be in multiples of 4, or things that 4 can divide to a large extent. Yeah. So that it's easier for you to break it down into smaller text. So I'm going to make that, the size of that 116. Okay, this one I just did now. There is an easier way of me doing it. I could have, selected everything, selected everything, and then put a space. Let's say here, distribute horizontally. Okay, it doesn't happen. Oh, interesting. Okay, another way I could have. Let's just focus. Okay, I think I should actually show you people some powers of this thing here. Now, see what I'm going to do. I'm going to select all these things. Some people are waiting at this time. Waiting room. Okay, I'm going to select all these icons, and then I'm going to make them components. I'm going to click at this, and then I'm going to create multiple components. Yeah, multiple components. Because I like my things arranged, I'm going to put them on auto layout. Auto layout. And then I'm going to kind of make it like one, So these are multiple components, yeah? The next thing I'm going to do is to select them. Sorry, you know what? Let's forget that auto layout for now. No auto layouts, right? No auto layouts. So I'm going to combine them as variants, yeah? Now they are all multiple components, and then I'm going to combine them as variants, right? They are variants. This means that they are all variants of each other. Now, next thing I'm going to do is, okay, first of all, put an auto layout on them so that they look more organized. I like my things organized. It's from fixed, I'll take it to hot content so that I can see everything. All right, and inside this one, so each of these things, I'm going to name them because it makes it easier to manage. So this is chevron up. Which one is property 2 now? No, not property 2. So current variant. So these are. Sorry, let me. This is the component sets. Where are the variants? Interesting. What did I change in this one? I didn't change anything. I don't know what it's telling me. What's going on here? Let's see what to. Oh, I shouldn't. What's going on? Sorry. Let me just go back because I don't understand what's going on. So so these are different icons. I'm going to combine, create multiple components. With multiple components created, combine as variants. So why is it calling it a component? So, okay, let me see the names. This one is okay. Why is it naming this? Why is this one not named? All right. So this is chevron up. This is chevron right, chevron left, and this one should be chevron down. So let's just name it, because when your components are not well named, I don't know why it's like this. It shouldn't be like this. Let's call it chevron down. It's misbehaving because it's not well named, and I don't know why it's not. You know, when you copy components from a component library, it may not always, you know, come out as you want. But the beauty of this, of what we've just done, is that content. The beauty of what you just done is that if I select one of these things and pull it out, right? Inside this one contains the seed of every other one, so that I can go here and turn it to chevron left, turn it to chevron down. And the reason I can do that is because they are all connected inside a component set. So I can call this, let me just call these icons, yeah? So icons. So typically all your icons are going to be in a component set, so that you can always, maybe if you have plenty buttons, let me show you what that does. Okay, before I even get there. So we now have an icon, and I think let's take this to chevron down. We have a button, and then we have an icon with the button. Okay, and then we are going to make this button a component, because we want every other button to look like it. So we're going to copy this and bring it here. So the importance of me making it a component is that every time I change something here, like if I change the color now, or if I make it to not have any stroke, right? This one is also going to not have stroke here. However, yeah, let's just leave that for the moment. So this one now is the button, and let's look at the auto layouts. Okay, I think I'm okay with this. Almost there. And then let me change the text in here. Okay, it's enter. Let's go with a different font. This one, brown mouse font is what. Let me just use ETL. Sorry. ETL. So as I'm changing it here, it's also changing there, right? So that's the whole idea of having a component. So these are going to be my components. Then every other thing I'm just going to copy from here. So so this button, I can now do this. Maybe if I take this one, I can go in here and change it from chevron down to chevron right, or whatever it is I want to do. Another thing you may want to put on your button is, like, to automate the button, is this, right? So here I have this, I can layer. So let's talk about this layer property, right? Layer properties can make things basically disappear. I can make this you know, 0, you know, it becomes 0, it kind of pretty much disappears. I think it's easier for me to show this in something that is not a let me detach this instance so that it becomes like a normal button. Yeah. So if I click on this, okay, sorry. What I wanted to say, sorry. Give me a second. So why is my computer is just misbehaving today? So if I go in here now, right, and click this arrow, I can come to this layer. This button here is like making it disappear, right? So close your eyes to it, it disappears. Open your eyes, it comes back up. I actually don't like the fact that this icon is controlling the size of my the size of my frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this frame instead of hot content, I'm going to make it fixed height. So that this icon does not control it too much like that. So when I close the eyes of this one, you know, yeah, it makes sense that it shrinks, because if there is no icon here, you know, this one can, you know, look like a button that doesn't have an icon. If I want it to have an icon, I open it, the eyes again, and then it has an eye. It has an eye. So I can do that again to show you. Notice that this one is behaving like it, but this one has become a prodigal son. The reason this has become a prodigal son is that we changed this one. So once you change something, a particular feature, you are no longer able to control it from the central, right? So, however, because we've not changed this button, this text feature, if I convert this text from regular to bold, you get all of them convert to bold, because that button, this other button, I've not changed anything on that bold button. But once I change something here, maybe I convert this one to bold now. By converting it to bold, I detach that particular feature from every other thing. So if I convert this to bold, the next time I change this, maybe, sorry, this component, let me go back to open the eyes so that okay, sorry. Bring it back. So the next time I change this one to bold now, or change this one from regular to medium, you see this one is still changing. The first one is still changing, but the second one is no longer listening, because, you know, we have changed something in it. And by changing something in it, you kind of detach it from the parents. That particular feature, you detach that particular feature from the parents. Now, if, for instance, this frame around it now, this frame around it will make it curved. Let's say put a distance of 5 on it. You get, it's still going to obey. Let's say 10. It's still going to obey because we've not touched it yet. If we touch it, it also stops obeying. So that's kind of how it behaves. Another thing I like to do on my buttons is that I like to automate them. So this one now, my computer is misbehaving. Just forgive me for this. What's going on? Oh, we locked it. Oh, wow. Okay. So this thing now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to automate it. And the way I automate it is using this. That's creating a Boolean property, So if I create a Boolean property, the property I want to create is like it appearing and disappearing, right? So show components, instead of naming it show component, I'm going to name it icon. And then the first value is going to be true. I've created that property. So what that means is on this one, that still listens anyway, because the other one does not listen anymore. You can see automatically something comes up here that says icon and it has a toggle button. I can make it true or false. You know, so I can now control it from here instead of going in to edit, you know, on it. I can come here to control it. So let's say I have another icon here. I want that. Let's say, sorry, let me just copy. Let me just steal this particular thing and put it inside this button just to prove a point. 24 by 24. 24. by 24. All right, just to prove a point, if I take this cheese, right, and put it inside this button to become some sort of an icon, right, all of them have developed cheese all of a sudden. Now, I can come here, and inside this cheese, I'm going to also put a Boolean property that will show it or not show it. So this is a Boolean property. I create a new property, show cheese. Wow, okay. It's okay because I named the cheese, right? Create property. So if I now go to this button that still listens, I can say show cheese, don't show cheese, show icon, don't show icon. I can even off both of them together, so it just becomes a normal button. All right, so that's kind of how I like to work with buttons. Let me see if this one still even has. Okay, this one also listens, still listens, right? Okay, that's cool. Right. Okay. So I've created buttons, yeah. So we have our logo, we have our button. What else? Buttons. So it's just logo and buttons, right? Right. So let's go ahead and create our navigation bar with that. So we have an arrangement of a logo and buttons together. I'm going to press Shift A. It becomes an auto layout. Yeah. Now you can see the auto layout. For me to make you to see it, let me just put a fill there. Not that I need it. You can see the border is, the padding is 0 from top to bottom. You know, typically because it's desktop, I want it at 40 at a minimum on the right and left. Okay, and then top down. Okay, so typically I just want the height of this thing to be 70. From experience, right? 70 just looks better for me, right? So you can have your own, whatever works for you. I'm going to make this height, and then I'm going to put it at the fixed height of 70. And then I'm going to put this like in the middle for now, just so I can see what's going on, right? Now I'm going to, because there are many buttons here, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buttons. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to also have 7 buttons. 2, now Command D, 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 D. How many now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, D, 7 buttons. Yeah. So you can see the frame will have this thing between them is 130. You know, that's not what we want. What we want is a situation where the frame is going to be a width of the same width as our desktop, which is 1000 watts, 1440. So we're going to do that 1440 as well. So we're going to fix the width of the nav bar to 1440. Right. All of a sudden, these ones have become have come out. It's not really out. It's just, you know, disappeared. How I know it disappeared, if I click contents, you know, it goes, you know, yeah, it has gone out of the frame. So what gives? So what I'm going to do is that this one, instead of making it 130, seems too much, I'm going to make it auto. So that auto means that the space between them is now shared, right? In such a way that it's just shared in such a way that they are equal, right? So they are now sharing equal space. Now, if you notice that some of the buttons are actually closer together than the others, right? So, by the way, let's remove all the cheeses in the buttons, right? Because our buttons don't have cheese, so let's just remove the cheeses from the buttons. I've selected all of them, and I've gone to don't show cheese. All right. So now we have more room. And another thing we're going to remove is the border. Let's see if I can remove the border from automatically. Okay, I cannot create a robot for that. Okay, I want to remove the border from here. I don't want to. I want the bigger, the original to kind of have a border. So let me remove the border from here. Remove the border stroke. Or instead of removing it totally, let me just make it invisible. Yeah, make it invisible. Okay. Okay, so what do we have? It's looking like the the icon is actually closer to the text. So let's do that. So the spacing, we're going to make it 5, instead of 10. I'll make it 4 instead of 10. Okay, that looks better. Then let's arrange this button because we have like 1, 2, 3, 4 are closest to each other. So let's have 4 buttons that are closest to each other. Selecting these 4, 3, 4, and then we're going to put them on an auto layout with Shift A. So they come on an auto layout. How are we going to make it clear to each other? By the space between, instead of making it auto, we're going to change it to, let's say, 4, right? Let's put 4 there. And then the size of the frame, we're going to just make it hot content, yeah? Right, and then these ones are also closer together, so we'll do the same thing for them. 3, put them on auto layout, and then change it to 4, right? 4 was the last one. And then instead of fixed, the container will make it to hot content, yeah? Now, you may notice that, they are now looking, like more organized. And then, but this one is closer to the Meta logo. So we're going to group them together and put an auto layout on them, and then change this from auto to 20. All right, let's try 20, see what 20 looks like. Okay, maybe more than that. Let's say 50. Okay, this looks better. And then let's not fixed, but hot content. Yeah. Okay. So now we have something that looks kind of like where we're going. And then some of the icons have like an arrow, some of them don't have an arrow. So like this one, the second one doesn't have an arrow. This metaverse one doesn't have an arrow. So we go in and remove the icon. Nice. Now this one also, the 2 here, they don't have arrows. So we go in and remove the icon. Okay. What else? Okay, yeah, but of course the text in them are different, right? So another thing I like to do is changing the text from, I mean, it's cool. I don't know if it's more effective. I just feel it's cool. So the way I do it is I come here and I make this another Boolean, another variant, a property. I make it a property, text property. Yeah, like button text, okay? Button text, so that I can change it peripherally, right? So that's the button text. So what that means is that when I go back here and click this, I can change the property from here. So the button text, so another property has been added. You have icons, yes or no, you have show cheese, yes or no. And then you have button text. So from this button text, I can change the button text from buttons now to who we are. Right, so you get, I'm changing the buttons right from the properties panel. I don't know if it's more, if it saves time, I really don't know. I just think it's more, it feels cooler. So I can change this one to our technologies. Right, and then this one is the metaverse. And then that one is Meta and you. Sorry, who? Oh, what did I do? Okay, I didn't put our technology. Okay, let me put this on our technology. Okay, sorry, my mistake. I just our technologies. Now this one is the metaverse, right? This one is the metaverse. And then this one is Meta and you. Right. Okay. Okay, of course the button weights are a bit different. So maybe I should change the button weight centrally just to make it just a bit heavier. Nothing too forward. Regular, maybe semi-bold. Semi-bold? Yeah, semi-bold looks more like it. Semi-bold. Okay. Even the icons look smaller. So let's just, sorry, I like to let's change the icons a bit. So the icons, the way I did this, selected all of them is I clicked on the icons and I clicked on return or enter. Then here I'm going to make this smaller. Let's say 16. Let's see what 16 looks like. I clicked on this thing first because I want it to constrain proportion. So when I change this one to 16, the other one will also change automatically. I think this looks more like it, yes. Yeah, this looks more like it. Right. Okay, so we have and notice that as I'm doing it here, because I'm doing it on the parents, all the children are also going to change. That's the beauty of using, that's the beauty of using sorry, that's the beauty of using this thing, components, right? So now I don't have to be changing them one by one. I can just go to the central parent and then change the parent, and then all the children will also automatically change, right? Then here, this one is shop meta. So I'm going to also change this to shop meta. Sorry, any questions? Then this is news. If you have any questions, you can immediately ask, right? You don't need to, and then this is support. Right. Okay, so you see how I did that. And the next thing I'm going to do is that I can take this and then put it inside this frame. Put it inside this frame, okay? And then I'll arrange it properly. Proper arrangement, right? Right, so I've created the navigation bar. And the navigation bar is inside the main screen. Personally, I like designing my, okay, let's get there. When we get there, we'll talk about it. Now this one is, we have more like 3 elements here, 3 big elements. That's this one, this picture, this element, and then, okay, you can actually say there are 2, right? You have 1 and then 2. And then inside this second one, you have this. Sorry, you have this and this. Inside this one, you have this. Inside this one, you have this, right? So that's kind of what we're going to do. So let's start with the smaller ones, yeah? So we start with the smaller ones. We start with the text. Right, so this size, what size will this be? This looks big. It looks like a 60 something. Let's type this first. It's your world. And then select everything. I think it looks more like a 64, size 64, something like that. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Then the second line says what? Second line says, but that one now looks smaller, looks like a 16. Is it a 16? Yeah, let's say 20. This one, looks like a size 20 text, like a size above the 16. Let's try it and see what happens. So it says connect with people and interests across Meta. Sorry? Technologies to help you make your world your own. Right, but as you can see, is in 2 lines. So how we achieve that is like pulling this, you know, in until we kind of get exactly where we are. So that's kind of what it is there. Right, you may not notice, but the color of this is bigger than the color, like is stronger than the color of this. And typically how they achieve things like that, you know, is by so there are 2 ways you can do that. You can make the color of this one, reduce the transparency, you know, from 100 to maybe 60, you know, so it's a bit less transparent. Or you can also do it from here. People do it from here, but wouldn't advise, better to do it from here. So at the end of the day, you kind of have the same color, but different levels of transparency to kind of show that different level of hierarchy. Right. So now the button. Right. Now the button. So because a button is a button, so we pick the button from the button we've already had, and then like every other button says learn more, right? Learn more. Okay. Learn more. And it doesn't have an icon and it doesn't have a cheese. So that's just learn more. But what I've noticed about this button, I think I can only see it with this one because this one is the one that has borders, is that it actually has a bigger padding. So let's make the padding 16, see what 16 looks like. Okay, and it's also rounded all the way. So how we achieve that all the way around is just putting the corner radius at something bigger than half of this. So that let's just say 30. So achieve the perfectly rounded button. Right, so that's learn more. Okay. Who is shouting? Now let's make this 20. Let's see what 20 looks like. Let's make this 20. Maybe more. Let's say 24. Okay, that's the last one. That's the last one. I'm not doing again. Right, 24. So let's use this as our button. And because they are in auto layout and the distances look similar, so let's just select this, and select this, and Shift A, put them on auto layout. Okay, as you can see, it's not doing exactly what I thought it would do. So what I'm going to do in order to control, you can see that the distances are not the same, even though like our auto layout is saying they are the same. It's saying they are 14, but they're not looking the same. And the reason for that is that we need to change this to vertically trim it so that it's easier for us to control. So vertically trimmed this, so you can see that the distances is now kind of the same. So if you can, it's now easier to control. So we can come here now and say maybe like 20, maybe a bit more than that. So let's say 40. Maybe not that, maybe 36. Okay, so it's not looking better. Now the next one is this, right? So we decide if we want to make this a line or we make it a really slim rectangle. Let me go with a line. Let me go with a line. So a line, we're going to draw a line like this. Now the thickness of the line, let's use maybe 4, see what 4 looks like. Okay, 4 looks okay. Now that line, the ends of the line, we're going to round it so that it looks more elegant. And then we're going to duplicate it. And then we have a small icon here, a small play icon. So where I'm going to find this icon is in our normal place, the icon library from Content Reel. I'm looking for an icon, a play icon. Okay, these are field icons. The icon I'm looking for is not field though. Like I'm looking for not field icons. Field regular. Looking for regular icons. Play. Right. So this looks more like it. Yeah. So I'm going to take this. Now what I'm going to do with this, where are the others? This thing keeps happening to me. This is actually the center of this document. That's why. Command X. Let me find our document again. Let me paste it here. Okay, so that's the icon. And sorry, I'm not going to paste it here. Let's see where I'm going to put it because it's an icon here. So I want it to be part of our icon library. Now these other icons are 16 by 16. So I'm also going to make it 16 by 16. Right, and then I'll make it a component first, because other ones inside there are also components, and then I'm going to drag it in. There is now part of our components library and is well named and everything. So that sorry, I can actually pick any. I can pick up any other icon from anywhere. Let's say I can pick up an icon from here, so you know, I can pick up an icon from here. I can pick up an icon from here, for instance. And then I can convert it to a play circle. Magic, yeah. Okay, so I'll take this and bring it down to this point so that it joins the rest. But that icon looks bigger. It looks bigger. So I'm going to change the size from here. Let's make it 24 and see what happens. Okay. I think it looks more like the size now. It looks more like the size. But one thing about that icon, okay, it looks bigger actually. Okay, let's make it 26. One thing about this icon is that, yeah, the outer shell, like this thing here, looks like it's colored different, yeah? It's colored different. So I'm going to try to do that. This one is not going to let me do it. So I'm going to detach it. I'm going to detach this from the parent so I can really edit it however I like. So I can detach this instance because once it's with the parent, there are things they cannot be able to do to it. I cannot do this now when it's with the parents. So I can detach it so I can do this and color it however I like this part now. The color I want for it, I want to feel that is a bit, no, sorry. This things can be tricky. But a different color. Even make it, you know what, let me do it differently. Instead of making it, let me change it from here, make it 50%. Yeah, because I kind of like, okay, so now we have an icon that looks more like what we are going for. Another thing is this one was blue. Okay, you know what, let's start with organizing them first because they're on the same line. I select everything and then I press Shift A to put them on an auto layout in the middle like that. Yes. On an auto layout, then what I'm going to do here is that I want a situation when if I push elongate this thing, these ones will also elongate. Yeah. I want these ones these ones inside to also elongate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of them, and then instead of making it fixed, I'll make it fill container, so that whenever I elongate it, they will elongate. By shortening it, they will shorten. That's better. And that looks much better. But the space here is more, so maybe I should put the space here more. Maybe make it like 10 or so. 10. 10. Right. And then this one and this one, I'm going to combine them together. Command A, and then they are together. And then I'm going to make this box to hug content. Hug content, and okay, it's already on hug content. Then this one, I'm going to make it to fill container. As a container of this one, I'm going to make it fill container. What? Is it closer? Okay, this box is actually bigger. Okay, so what I'm going to do in order to show this is that this particular box here, right, I'm going to add a padding of 20, see what it looks like. It's 20 looking like it's maybe more, maybe 40. Okay, that looks more like it, yeah. Looks more like it. Looks more like it. And then this one, I'm going to color it blue. Of course, like I'm just choosing colors from the top of my head, yeah. That's not how it should be. I should have a color guide that I should use, but because we're just copying another person's website, I'm just going to be picking colors, you know, from that website, just picking colors. Like I don't have my own colors, so I'll use a picker tool, and then I'll go to the place color I want to copy. Show you the same color. I'll use that. Right? And then I'll use that also for the button. So this button, I'm going to override it by filling it up and removing the stroke. Or should I, instead of removing it, let me make it invisible. And then the color as well, I'm going to pick it from the original. And then the text inside. The text inside, I'm going to make it white. Let's make it white. So we now have one side of it, yeah. So now we need the other side, and this other side is quite simple. It's just we get a frame, we put that frame. I don't know the size here. My guess is let's just height. Maybe let's say 600 by 400 maybe. Let's say 500. And then let's put a radius of maybe 20, like 50, let's say 50. Okay. It may not be accurate, so maybe like 20. Let's try 40 or something. See what 40 looks like. Okay. So now this frame, I'm going to put a picture inside by painting it as the picture. So choose image. I don't know what pictures I have, but let's just pick any picture. Let's just pick any picture. This works. My computer is just slow, God. Okay. Am I happy with this, or should I crop it? Move it a bit so that because this guy seems to be the person that is doing the. Okay, let's just leave it. So once we have that, we are now going to select this, and use Shift A, put them in a auto layout, centralize, and then what I would normally do is that this frame, I'm going to fix it to the same 1440 as the rest of it. And then this one is going to be in the middle, not really in the middle, but you see. So I'll put it like this. And then the edges of this, and I'm going to give it a padding of 40, just like the rest, like I have, okay, therefore it doesn't look good. Let's say 100. Yeah, 100. Okay, let's say 80. 80 looks more like it. 80. Okay, so that pattern looks good. And then the middle now, I'm going to, like this spacing in the middle, I'm going to make it auto so that they are spread maximally apart. I think this picture is actually bigger than what we have here. So let's use the height. Let's make the height more like, let's say 800. Oh, not that all, 700. Okay, let's like say 6. All right, let's take this. And now this, we can now push it into the frame. Yeah, push it into the frame. And then, so there are a couple of things you can do here. You can, okay, make it connect, but then you see it's too high. So you can now put a padding. Let's say a padding of top to bottom of like 100, right? Let's see. 100, that looks more like it, right? Yeah, like that looks a lot more like it. Oh. That looks a lot more like it. So we've done the hero section. So the next thing, we do another section. So this section, we do another section. So that's kind of how I like to do it. I like to separate it. So this one now, instead of naming it desktop, I'm going to name it the hero section. And yeah, so So we have another section now. This section, sorry, this one we're going to make it the same thing, desktop, 11:22. We've actually overshot our time. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you a couple more. I'm going to walk a bit faster. Okay, I want to show you this. This is easy. I will show you this, and then I will show you this. I think you can even do this, but maybe I should just go ahead and show it to you anyway. So here, what did they do? They had their logo. Is it the same size? No, a little bigger one. So take this logo. Just that my computer is slow. I would have loved to work faster, but my computer is slow. And then increase the size a bit. I'll use K to increase it because yeah, I think this size is okay now. All right. Right, and then under it you have a text. Under it you have this text, and I can just basically, instead of starting all the way from the scratch, and just pick text from here, put here, and then this looks like bigger, maybe something around 40 or so. Yeah, that's something like that. And then I'm going to, because it's like 3 lines or so. And this one, if you notice the arrangement is different. If the arrangement of this one was like aligned to the left, this one is aligned to the center. It's centrally aligned. So it's something like this. So now these two, I'm going to put them on auto layout. Shift A, and they are on auto layout central. Put it on the center. And then this space between them, let's say, looks more like 50. Yeah, it looks like 50. That is it. Now, this one is why I wanted to actually kind of show you around here, because while these ones are centralized, these pictures don't seem like they have any rules to how they behave, because this one now is, you understand, the pictures don't seem like they have a rule, any rules that they are based on. So that's actually why I wanted to show you, how this is going to work. Right, so let's move further. I'll pick text from here, helping people do more together. Let's make it just something as a one-liner so that I don't spend my time typing. So this is a one-liner. Smaller looks like something like maybe 36 or so, or 32. 32, yeah. And then this looks like bigger than this, so maybe it's be around 70-ish, 70 something. My computer is so slow, God. I need to clean up a lot of things there. 7 billion. And this is, the size looks more like around 90 something. Okay, not that. Let's say 70. Let's see, or 80. Let's say 80. Yeah, it looks more like 80. And the thickness, is it really that? Sure. Medium. Nah, this is okay. And then the text under it looks like the same, size as those texts, just that they are now aligned centrally. So we're going to do that too. And then it has 2 icons here. But the icons are a bit different, not the icons that we've had before, because the icons we had are not circle icons. So let's look for circle icons. Let's look for circle icons. I really want to. Okay, let's look for circle icons. Oh, arrow icons, icon, fluent icons, regular, arrow. Oh, the arrow circle. Let's see. Okay. Arrow circle. Okay, I'm not seeing exactly what I'm looking for, so I'm just going to pick these ones here. I'm just going to take these ones. Let me put it in that way. Maybe. It's not doing it. Okay, it worked. Okay. So let's do 2. And let's do 3. And then this is the 4. Let's do the cocky. Let me choose these ones as well. And all of them, I think we need to change the size because this one is size is 16. These ones are like 24. So first of all, let's make them multiple components, create multiple components. Secondly, let's change the size to 16 by 16. So 16. Then let's move them all into our icon library. Boom. So here we have new icons now. New icons mean that we can pick icons from here. Okay, this is no longer an icon. We changed it. So it's no longer an icon. So we can pick this icon, Control C. Control V, paste here. And then, because I think they look bigger, so we're going to change the size to 24, was it? 24. Nah, bigger than that. Let's say 36. That's more like it. And then we can change the arrow circle left and arrow circle right. So arrow circle left and arrow circle right. I already did that. Okay. And then it also looks like it has that thing that was going on with the other one where, you know, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, because it's bigger actually. So let's say 40. Okay. So let's detach them, detach the instances. Then this one, go in. But sometimes you have to put it back and then change it to 50%. Yeah. Then do the same with this one. Okay. So yeah, we have 2 icons now. So let's start arranging them. So these ones first, they go together. Shift A, auto layout, right? And space between them looks smaller. Let's try 10, see what 10 looks like. Okay. Okay, let's just leave it that way. And then the spaces between this, let's just combine this and Shift A, use them in an auto layout, spaces between them, let's say 40. Okay, that looks good. And then we are now going to combine this one. The space between here looks bigger, so let's just combine these two together first and make the spaces between it like 200 more like. And then now add this. Okay, this one and this one are together. Now add it to this one and this one combined, and then space between them looks like, let's say 300. Not also 300. Okay, let's work with that. Not sure how. Let's work with that. All right. So now this frame will now pull it, bring it into our normal frame. Oh, sorry. Let's make the size, the width. The width is fixed width of 1,440. So centralize it once again. And then we pull it in. Well, you will notice that this our frame is actually bigger, right? It's bigger, so it's bigger. So let's this bigger frame or this outside frame, we need to elongate it because it kind of has to contain everything. Let me join it together with this one so I can. It's more easy to determine the size, the actual size of it. Because this frame needs to be bigger. There. Something like that. And then this one, the frame, I would looks like it has the top. That thing looks like 40. No, sorry, what am I doing? This one looks like 40. Yeah, oh, it's more like it. What content, please? Okay. Okay. Let's just work with it. Now, these other things that is now going on around it, right? Because these things look like they just hanging around, there's no particular rules to how they are behaving. I'm going to okay, let's sorry. Put this here. If I pull it here now, automatically it's going to join the auto layouts up there. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use absolute positioning. So this here is called absolute positioning. When you click it, it now gives you the opportunity to move things around inside that frame, but in a way that it doesn't affect other things, right? So that kind of gives you the opportunity for you to work on whatever you need to work on, put it wherever you want to put it, especially when it's not following any particular rules, right? So I'm going to do it for this. I'm going to like when you duplicate it, like the thing kind of follows it around, you know. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Now this one looks like it doesn't even have anything. So let's 0. And then move it here. So that's how absolute. I think I asked you guys to remind me about absolute positioning in the next class. So this is what it is: absolute positioning. Things. So I'm going to make it 252. So that's it. I think the next thing I want to show you. Next, okay, sorry. This background has some kind of it has some kind of something going on here. What do you call it? More like a fade, right? I've forgotten what this is. A gradient, right? It's going on at the background, but it's not exactly a gradient. But if you see, they have like different colors. Yeah, they have different colors. Okay. Let's do that effect. Yeah, right. Let's do something that has that effect, because it's like showing you. We're just showing you how things work. So let me just so in order to do something like this, I'm going to start with using random shapes. So let me just use like say circles or ellipses of different colors. I'm just going to show you what that effect, or how to achieve an effect like that. I'm not going to show you exactly the same thing, because I really don't know the colors that they combine together, but I'm just going to show you like how to do something like that. I'm going to try to make it as close to possible as what we have there. I am likely to fail at replicating that one exactly, but I'm going to do the effects to the best of my ability. I'll try to show, basically showing you how to do something like that if you wanted to do it. So this one looks really big and really big like this, yeah. Combine this one also go that way. Okay, so to color this one, I would take, let's see, this one looks, no, let me just take it from here. My computer is just annoyingly slow, God. And this one will be something closer to green. It's looking greenish there. And this one is something closer to what? That blue. Whatever the case. This one looks like purple. Right. Okay. So we have this here. I can combine this group. I'm just going to group it. And then on the effects, I'm going to not drop shadow. I'm going to do layer blur. And then I'm going to blur the hell out of it. Let's see. 500, for instance. Let's see, blur 500, yeah. So that blur, should I even reduce the layer? Maybe the layer, the transparency. I'm going to reduce it to so it does not, it's not overwhelming. Let's say 20. Right, and then this, I'm going to move it in and move it in and position it so it's inside the frame. It's not disturbing anybody. So it's just going to be there. Right. Okay, so we've done. Okay, I'm going to move it to the back, right? So that it's at the back. Right now, it's at the front. It may affect the color of every other thing. So I'm going to send it to the back. So that's it's right there at the back. So that's it. And then this one, I don't know, like it's basically auto layout. You guys are going to figure it out, but I think I've basically shown you how to arrange things. So when you do this and then you do that one, sorry, this next frame, this is the next frame. So we've done this frame hero, and then we've done this next frame. We can name it, I don't know, about us frame. And then maybe you do this frame video, do this other frame, like you do it in ways that you feel that they are connected. And this frame is the, what do you call it, the footer. By the time you've collected everything, you now select this one, select that one, and then auto layout it, and then they become, part of an auto layout. Let me remove this so that you can see what's going on. So they become part of an auto layout. You can now name this like home page here. Right, so you can see how that works, yeah. So that's it. That's it for today's class. I'm going to send in your assignments. Your assignment is probably going to be to replicate a whole web page. We just did like a quarter. So you're going to replicate a whole web page. I'm going to teach you how to take a picture of a web page so it comes out like this. Or you can figure it out yourself, Figure it out yourself. In fact, I'm not teaching you anything. Like go to the internet and figure it out, how to take a screenshot of a full web page. So that you can basically take a picture of whatever web page you want to replicate and then try to replicate it. So we've done this. Any questions? Are there any questions? Any questions before I stop sharing my screen?
Yeah, well done so far. Thanks for the session. Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
All right. There's a particular color change you made on the hero section, the arrow buttons. I noticed you changed the circle, and it did not affect the arrow itself inside.
Yeah.
How did I change?
Okay, so first thing I did here was to detach that. I detached. So I took an icon. I took an icon. My computer is slow. The thing is just. So I took an icon and then I detached it from the instance, because if this purple thing is around it, you won't be able to do anything. So you detach it so it becomes blue. Then you tap into it, so you have these things like this. Then you go here. This is the buckets, the paint buckets tool, and then what I did is that what I needed to do. Okay, let me just not even use the paint bucket yet, right? Let me, sorry. Let me use something else. Let me use a pen tool or something. Basically, something that is going to help me select this particular one and not the rest. Okay, apparently I can't do that. So I think I'm stuck with using the paint bucket tool anyway. But what I needed to do was select just this circle. So what this paint bucket tool does is Like you see, it's selecting just the circle. So when I hit it now, it disappears. When I hit it, it disappears. So I have to hit it again so it appears back. But now that it's appeared back, now that it's appeared back, it's only selecting this one. So now I can now fill it. Now I can now fill it. In this case, like just changing it 50%. So when I change it, the other one is no longer changing because it's not selected. You understand? It's the one that is selected that is going to change. Do you get it?
All right, I'll try it out. Sir.
All right, just play around.
Thank you.
All right. All right. Any other question? Any other question? All right. Okay. So that's it. We'll stop sharing and have a nice day. I'm going to share the class so that you can always go and pick it up at any time. Have a nice day, guys.
All right, and the assignment, I want to pick just any screen for ourselves, or
yeah, any screen. I'll still send you the the formal whatever, but you're going to pick any screen, doesn't matter. But of course, use something that you can replicate. A website. Don't make it too complicated. That's something you can do. Challenge yourself, actually. If you can, challenge yourself, but don't make it over complicated. Don't go, for instance, to take a Facebook app. Right? Yeah. But take a website that you can that will challenge you, but won't make it super complicated, because that's not the goal. Okay. All right. Have a nice day.
You too.